Hey there, Cheese Meisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I'm Jeff, and I hate it here. I'm a freak in this town. Everybody stares at me on the street like I was something out of a carnival. Then I probably play the ukulele. And joining me on the other end of the internet, my cuz host.
I'm Leslie, and I haven't any pride.
This movie is something else.
It is so not what I remembered.
Oh, that makes me. I'm very happy to discuss this movie. It kind of broke my brain a little bit.
I'm sorry.
No, in a good way. In a way that I not in a I need to fix this Pearl Harbor way, but in a by damn is this fascinating. Everything going on in this movie is fascinating. So we are discussing today Splendor in the Grass, the 1961 Elia Kazan sexual frustration masterpiece starring Warren Beatty in his first role, Natalie Wood in a role that got her an Oscar nomination, and Pat Hingle, who played Warren Beatty's dad in this, and was also Commissioner Gordon in the 1989 Batman movie. So every time I heard him talk, all I could picture was him leaning in close to the cop when the cop said, "Napier's cleaning out Axis chemicals." And he goes, "My God." And that's all. The whole time was him receiving the notification that Napier was cleaning out Axis chemicals. What's happening for me?
Is there anything more delightful than hearing an actor go, "My God"?
I know. Yeah, because it could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could literally be anything. That's your green. Everything. Man, I can't wait to have a green room. I swear to God, we're getting T-shirts made.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe we'll have to get them made in conjunction with the upcoming episode that we just recorded, where Sarah Betty comes back. Because I really want a T-shirt that says "blank is my green room."
And in that blank, can you change it like with the marker?
Oh, that'd be cool. I don't know. I mean, yeah, put it like
It can be different in each time.
You totally could. Yeah, or like with a little safety pin, you can just pin it there, like "Hi, my name is." I know. It'd be so great. So we're watching this in conjunction with season 2, episode 16, My Desperate Valentine. And our spelling connection is Natalie Wood again, who, as we have all know at this point, was in an episode of Heart to Heart. I feel like maybe at this point we're going to have to go watch that episode of Heart to Heart because it's been our keyword 3 or 4 times already. So
we're actually going to do a spin-off pod about Natalie Wood.
I'm telling you what, I don't know that I'd seen a whole lot of Natalie Wood before embarking on this journey here. And now we're what? I know, right? I feel really good about it. We've got Splendor in the Grass. We've got the intention of watching West Side Story, which we didn't quite get to, but we will at some point. We've got Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. And what else? What else was our other Natalie Wood? Or was it just those 3?
I think it's just those 3.
Let's see.
We've talked about it.
There's another one in a couple of weeks. We discussed doing Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, in conjunction with a Walsh Family Christmas. And we maybe have to because thematically it works so well. And here we are just riding the Natalie Wood train.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's our spelling connection. And of course the thematic connection to the culmination of this sequence of the Emily Valentine story. Kind of the conclusion. She does come back around Christmas time.
Well, I say like I know. I have no idea.
Yeah. But I mean, you saw her at Christmas. So that's pretty much it for season 2 for Emily Valentine. Yep. And where we saw her at Christmas time was in a loony bin because loving Brandon drove her crazy. And so we were looking for a movie where a woman ended up in a loony bin, probably because of a dude. And you suggested Splendor in the Grass. And as you just said a few minutes ago, this is a wildly different movie than the one you remember. So I would like to know the splendor in the grass that has existed in your head lo these many years before we talk about what actually happens in this movie.
I'm going to throw in some of how I think younger Leslie watched it.
Okay.
Because, this might have been the, not early days of us having satellite, but still, the days of, oh, there's this thing I'd like to watch, but there's this other thing that I know is really good, so I'm going to go back and forth. And Splendor in the Grass, I don't know what about it called out to me. I can guess, because, little Leslie was quite the romantic.
Into loneliness.
Absolutely.
Big waterfall fan.
Oh my God. So I think I only glimpsed a small portion of this film and inferred, and because I saw the end of it, my brain went, you've seen it all.
Okay.
If
So
you've seen 20 minutes of this movie, you've seen it all.
So what did you think happened in this movie? Like, what was your memory of what this movie was?
I thought her and Warren Beatty were in love, had sex, and then he dumped her.
Okay.
And then she went nuts.
Okay. All right.
Only one of those things is incorrect.
That's true. It's kind of a big one, but
it is.
Yeah.
It might be what set the course for my sexless teen years.
Okay, so if that's your memory of the movie, this entire time since you watched it when you were what?
Let's say 15.
Okay, since you were like basically the age of the characters.
Yes.
Because they're high school students. So from 15 till now, you've thought this movie was about a girl who has sex with her boyfriend, and that drives her to the nut house.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's not this movie.
No.
That's a different movie.
I mean, I feel like the first hour, maybe that's too far, but the first half hour is the majority, is just parents telling their kids, so don't have sex, focus on school. Not a bad message, not a great way of going about it. But yeah, as I'm watching it, I was like, this is already so different than what I remember.
Yeah. So I didn't know anything about this movie going in, other than Looney Bin, because that's how we got here. So here's what happens in this movie. And I was thinking about like sort of doing these synopsises earlier today. And I think the reason that it's helpful to do them is so that I remember what happens in this movie. And, you know, like, cause like broad strokes, I get it. But then I was like, all right, and then that thing happened. So there's these two kids. There's Deanie, and that's Natalie Wood. And there's Bud, and that's Warren Beatty. Bud's dad struck oil on their property in Kansas. This is 1928. The movie comes out in 1961, and I think that's important, and I think we should talk about it later. Okay. So his dad strikes oil, and rich, and her folks have stock in the oil company, and they're just watching it go up and up and up, and they're like, when should we get out? You know, whatever, we should hold on because everything is, happy days are here again, and et cetera, et cetera. And Deanie and Bud, they want to do it. And she feels real kind of conflicted about it because that's not something good girls do. And so she goes and talks to her mom, and her mom is like, no, that's not something good girls do. You just let your husband do that because you like him, okay? You know, like, it
gives you a child. That's the good thing about it. Right. You probably won't like it, but you'll get a baby if you do it.
That's right. But you absolutely can't do it because that's not what good girls do. If you want to know what bad girls do, look at Ginny, Bud's sister. She went away to school and she had the sex and she had an abortion and she's gone crazy and she just plays the shit out of a ukulele at really inappropriate times. So, like, don't. Bud because we see them in their first encounter, right? They're in his car because that's the only place any teenager has sex is in a car. And it's
Sure.
near the, like, just the cummiest waterfalls you've ever seen. And, you know, she stops Bud and he goes crazy. Like, has to get out of the car, has to take a long walk with a lot of deep breathing and sighing and grunting and being frustrated. I don't know what I'm gonna, everything you gotta tell me, gotta do it. It's a whole thing with Bud. And so he goes and talks to his dad. And his dad, who just hit it rich, and so he's nouveau riche, this dude. But he's trying to take care of his employees. He seems like a decent enough fella as far as all that goes. He tells Bud, you can't do it. You can't do it with a good girl like Deanie. And he's like, I want to marry Deanie because if I don't get married, Dad, have you heard of blue balls? And his dad's like, well, look, you can't get married yet. You got to go to Yale. Then you got to come home and run the business. But I just want to own a farm, Dad. I just want to run a farm. No, you got to go to Yale and run a business. But I just want to get married to Deanie. Well, you can do that in 4 years after you go to Yale. And in the meantime, if you really got a nut, find a different chick to nut in. Is basically the advice that Dad gives him. Never once does Dad suggest masturbating.
I was going to say, there's so much. I mean, the two things that could have fixed this movie fixed it. I'll say fixed it. Would have been better communication with the kids, because, you know, the dialogue you just gave us implied that Bud spoke a lot more and actually knew how to talk about his feelings.
It's true. But he didn't want to get married.
You know, like, they're playing sexual repression so hard. Like, it was hard to watch. The other thing that would have fixed it is, you know, you have two hands. They can do wonderful things.
Use them. That's right.
Learn how. They'll come in handy for, you know, other things, other people.
Yes. Just do hand stuff, guys. It's fine. Totally fine.
But that's worse than premarital sex, apparently.
I don't know. Do you know the song Good Girls Don't?
I feel like I've heard of it.
It's such a great song. It's from the early 80s. It's the Knack, the ones who do My Sharona.
Oh.
And it is a great power pop song, but the refrain is "Good girls don't, but I do," and it's awesome. It's really, really a great song. So I highly recommend everyone listen to "Good Girls Don't" by the Knack, and just fucking tap your toe to that wonderfulness. But Deanie's a good girl, so she won't, and won't drive. Is starting to drive her crazy, and not being able to gives Bud a fever and makes him pass out in the middle of a basketball game.
Okay. He also did this thing where he looked like he was having trouble seeing, and I thought, oh my God.
Blind?
Yes.
No one taught him about that. Don't you remember?
That's what I was like, wait a minute. How can he be playing with the whole blind thing if he hasn't been masturbating?
Nope, not he's just, when girls don't have sex, their repression drives them insane. When boys don't have sex, they get physically ill. 104 degree temperature that this boy gets.
He needed a sun lamp therapy.
He needed manual release is what he needed, because Bud was in trouble. And so Bud decides to follow his father's advice and get with like the classmate who everyone knows sleeps around, who seems very happy
because she's a ginger.
Right. She's a ginger. Well, you know, thumbs up. She seems very happy with her choices in life. Like,
yeah,
She's like the only person in the whole movie who's not hung up on sex, and it's just because she's getting whatever she wants.
Yeah. And to be fair, we don't, I mean, obviously we weren't going to see anyone have sex in this, but like, even though it is strongly implied at one point that they have sex beneath the cum waterfall, like, I mean, you could still argue that they just fool around, and that's why she's content, because she, goes as far as she wants. She's not limited by the patriarchy.
No, she can make her own choices, and her choices involve pole, lots of pole. And so, but there's all this other shit that's going on in this movie because we're only like half an hour in. And so then Ginny, Bud's sister, the ukulele playing slut, goes to the party. And I think it's the New Year's Eve party, maybe? I think it's the New Year's Eve party. And
there's two different parties.
Okay. Yeah, there are.
No, there's not. Well,
there's like an adult party and a kid party.
Yeah.
And she just about gets raped. And in a disturbing scene. Like, not pleasant to watch. Especially considering this is like 1961. You're like, wow, that is graphic, for the time.
Yeah.
And rough to watch now. You're like, oh, and Bud saves her, gets her out of there. But at some point, Bud decides to break up with Deanie. And one of the synopses I read said something about like he broke up with her because of like his horror at the rape or whatever. I felt like he broke up with her because he slept with the ginger.
Oh, I feel like he broke up with her before that.
He broke up with her
I thought he broke up with her to sleep with Juanita.
Okay, I couldn't remember her name.
I think that's her name.
You might be right. It sounds familiar. Okay, so but they broke up, and then obviously, but no, because she came to school after he had sex with Juanita, and she didn't know.
And that's when she starts breaking.
Right, but she didn't know. When she comes to school that day, she's happy. And it's everyone else around her.
I'm confused about it.
Like everyone else around her knows already because people talk.
But then how did she figure it out? That scene was so confusing to me because it seemed like they had been broken up and they were doing okay, like this is temporary. That's what it felt like. Like we're just taking a break. This is temporary. You need to figure out your shit. I'll be here for you. We will meet up again. And then he has sex with Juanita. But then we're at school suddenly, and we see her dissension.
Yeah, and I understood it because it was like she was picking up on like she knows who Juanita is. Everybody does. And Juanita sits right in front of her in class where they talk about poetry and shit. And she has presumably been a part of this chain of people talking in the past when Juanita has balled somebody, when there's hot gossip to share, right? So she knows what that looks like. And she comes to school not knowing any of these things. And then as she experiences all of these interactions, I think by the time she gets to poetry class or whatever and sees Juanita sitting there, she knows what happened. And she knows why everyone's looking at her funny and why everyone's kind of talking about her behind her back and why her good mood doesn't seem to match anything happening around her.
Yeah.
And so I think she figures it out by the time she gets there. And that's where she's like you're right. She starts to break.
Yeah. Because
I could have kept him if I just did the thing I wanted to do and not listen to my mom who was telling me good girls don't do that. So she agrees to go to the something with Toots. Dance with Toots. And she tries to catch up with Bud again, and that doesn't go the way she wants it to. I don't remember what happens, but
she cuts her hair too. That is notable.
Already? She does. I thought she did that. Yeah, before the dance. You're right. She did do that.
Because she had the bathtub scene where she's yelling at her mom, like, really? You're worried about me being tainted? I'm heartbroken because I did what you wanted. Yes. Do I look unclean? Do I look any different? And then of course she cuts her hair, which, as we all know, any woman who cuts her hair is going through something.
Right, that's a sign. Especially, well, I mean, if you're going to do it with a knife in the mirror in your bathroom. But
she did a really great job. I'll give her that. I was
going to say, it doesn't matter. Natalie Wood is beautiful. Like, she looked really good with that crazy ass haircut. Like, it was fine.
She did a better job than me cutting my hair in the pandemic. Like, teach me your way. But yeah, so she cuts her hair. She's wearing red.
Oh, right.
Again.
Yeah.
1960s for, like, ooh, she has. Yeah. Oh, look at that trollop.
Oh. She is easy.
She is DTF.
She is.
Yeah, so she does all that, goes to the dance.
And then Toots takes her to the cum waterfall again. Right? That's where this starts to happen?
Well, she tries to get back with Bud, and he says no.
Then she goes back to Toots in the school parking lot, but then she's like, can we go somewhere else? And then I think does he drive her to the cum waterfall, or does he go somewhere else? It must be near there.
He drives her to the...
It must be near there. And that gets a little too... it gets further than she wants it to go, so she stops it, and now she's officially gone no sex crazy. And she jumps into the river of jizz and almost drowns until I was looking away. I don't remember what happened. Like, somebody saved her. And then she...
A bunch of people working around the falls saved her. Which, okay, it looked like at first glance that she was going to kill herself. But then she's just in the water, and it made me think of at the end of The Awakening, where it's left like, was she going out to kill herself, or was she really just going to swim because she needed some independence and to cleanse herself? You know? And I had that same thought here too. Like, I think she had both ideas in her head, but like, she looked so relaxed in the water.
Well, because that's all she'd wanted this whole time. No one would let her have any of this frothy white goodness.
God.
So weird, everybody. It's not my fault.
It's so weird. So weird.
And it's like that feels like the whole movie to me. Like, it, in some ways, this movie is a little bit like Stripes, where it's kind of two different movies cut in half, and the first half is a different movie than the second half. It's not super different, except for like the driving force of the first half of the movie is that they're trying to get it, and they can't, and it's a whole thing, and it's making them nuts. So they separate from each other. She goes to the nut house. He goes to Yale. He's flunking out of school because he doesn't give a shit. He never wanted to be there to begin with. He meets a waitress who seems pretty nice and makes pizza. So everybody likes pizza. And when she's in the loony bin, she meets a guy who's also suffering from parental exhaustion. They want him to be a doctor in Cincinnati. And they fall for each other. And Bud knocks up marries and knocks up the pizza lady. And his dad... and then the stock market... Not before he knocks her up. He's met the pizza lady. But his dad... The stock market crashes. And so his dad comes to visit him at Yale to talk him into staying. And while he's there, like, the full weight of the crash hits him. He tries to buy his son a prostitute, and then he kills himself. Yeah. So then Bud gets married and goes and lives on a farm, which is what he always wanted to do. Deanie gets out of the loony bin 2 years and 6 months later, almost to the day, which they say in the movie. And she goes home, goes to visit Bud. There's a little bit of I don't know, closure for the two of them. A little bit.
A little bit. I mean, it was heartbreaking because, I mean, there's I feel like there's a layer of truth into it. Like, you know, the first one you love isn't necessarily the one you end up with. And like, there are, whatever the reasons are for that, you will still end up okay. You will love again and possibly be better off for it. But it's still heartbreaking to look back on the things that broke you up because they were outside of their control. I think a lot of times with teenagers, what breaks you up is outside of your control.
Yeah.
So
it could be an uncoordinated.
I can't wait to talk about.
It could be an uncoordinated white guy in a cardio funk class. I mean, it could be.
It could be. It could be two houses battling each other.
Which, yeah.
In Verona.
On the beach? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. So we don't really talk about what this movie was really about, but there's like stuff going on in this thing.
It can go with what else, possibly.
I have a lot of what else. Not a lot, but I just have a lot of stuff. So why don't you were just going to say something? Why don't you go that direction, and then we'll come back to some of the things that I've got written down over here.
I definitely want to go ahead and hop into Adventures with Intimacy because
okay, let's do it.
There's a lot. I don't know if I should condense it or not, but I will just hit on it as it comes to me.
Good. Like Jenny.
Oh my God. You know what? Let's start there. Let's get the really tough stuff out of the way.
Okay.
Some of the best intimacy in the film might have been the most horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, thankfully, because it's the 1960s, they're not going to show anything super graphic, or if they have, I haven't seen that movie. Don't tell me about it. I don't want to know.
Right. Hard pass.
I'm good. I've seen Game of Thrones. I'm good. But the way she like darts into this group of men and they follow her out, and then they're just all in this circle.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a
claustrophobic
agreement. It's a big circle, and yet it's also like there's no way out. And it's the most nerve-wracking moment of the movie.
Yeah.
And this is not even a character that we're going to get to follow more of.
Right. She dies in a car crash later off screen.
Yeah. So, and I mean, she's supposed to be like a warning to all the good girls in town, but it's like, no, this woman deserves understanding and pity because she's clearly like in a self-destructive path. But yeah. I'm digressing, but yeah, so that, and then the way they just showed, like, they did a lot of light across the eyes, and then dark everywhere else. Big thing, I feel like, in that era of Hollywood, but like it really hit. It worked well.
Yeah,
in this, I feel like. As for the rest of the intimacy in the movie,
all the front seat of the car banging.
It was pretty sloppy.
Yeah.
And speaking of car banging, I'm going to talk about the near assault of Deanie's character. When you just see from a sky view, this man toots. Shout out to George Carlin. You just see him kind of splayed over her.
Right.
And then her, like, fighting to get him off, and fortunately he does. But again, one of many areas where it was so sloppily and lazily done, because guess what this is the birth of, people? It's Elia Kazan, director, one of the founding parents of the method. And so I guarantee you, with those moments, and then with all of the slapping around the whole time, he just told the actors, here's what I want, go for it.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't look good. Like,
no, it's like he's a cardboard person on top of her in a weird, like, nothing's lined up where it would be under these circumstances. And it's just it's weird. the way that it looks physically.
Yeah, and you could have still done that, just have them both in profile, but with him still mostly over her.
Mm-hmm.
And, just give us angles,
Right.
Show some, like, legs entwined or something, or, like, again, in intimacy workshops, a lot of what they talk about is, like, you're creating a recipe when you choreograph something. So, like, you're looking at shapes. You're looking at, like, what's open, what's closed in terms of, like, are your upper bodies opened out, or, I could go so many directions with this, but I want to give a brief summary.
Yeah.
In case people are curious. So let me think of other moments. Okay. One other horrifying moment, and I'll get into some. There's not a lot of good in this. I'll just be honest. There's a moment when he pushes her down. Bud pushes Deanie down on her knees.
Oh, yes.
It's so weird, and I get it's supposed to show his conflicted sexual prowess, I guess, or sexual feelings for her. But I don't think it's done convincingly. It's not.
Yeah.
There's no commitment to it.
It's very.
And again, this happens more than once, where someone's reaction we should be seeing, we're only getting to see the back of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're also, granted, both of them, I want to see both of their reactions in this, but we're watching it from far away.
Yep.
So, very strange. I will give one positive. I loved the silent moments. So, going back to the one positive I found in all this were the silent moments between Bud and Deanie. They had some great chemistry and were just really good. One moment in particular is when they're standing outside of the classroom. They're not saying anything. They're just looking at each other, and you really see the love that has been there, and that they have such a beautiful and pure-ish relationship. Like, they love each other. Everyone else is getting in the way.
Yeah.
What
did you... so this is Warren Beatty's first movie. Did you see it? Like,
kind of.
Like, you're like, oh, I get why he became what he became. Like, he's that good.
Like,
I feel it.
You watch it, I can see they talk about, like, oh, they have it,
Yeah.
He's got charm. He's captivating. Honestly, not to say anything against Natalie Wood, but, like, he almost looks too good for Kansas.
Sure.
Sorry, Kansas. He does not look like he's from Kansas. Natalie Wood is also, like,
Hashtag
much
too hot for Kansas.
Too hot for Kansas. I'm sorry. But the way they dress her, and again, keeping her like the good girl, I think they did his hair too nice or something. It's hard to describe. He just, for the fact that his dad is working and new rich.
Yeah.
And the fact, too, that he wants to be a farmer.
Right.
He seems awfully put together.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
And
because he looks preppy.
Yes. You can, yeah. You can be clean and a farmer, of course. Like, but he looks preppy. He looks like college. And, yes, that's what his dad wants him to do. But generally, boys have more freedom of expression in their attire than girls do going to school. So, yes, I can see that it's his first film. Kind of. I can also see why he was able to go on and do more after this.
I think the two of them are really good. Yeah.
They're great together. It's sad that they don't get to do more together.
Yeah.
It's like, I'd be so intrigued to hear about, I don't know, what their chemistry building was like for this, because it did seem so natural. And as I've said before, getting people to look into each other's eyes is one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but like they had it.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be together. Oh, and again, the silent moment and then the looks at each other is we see that again at the very end.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
before she leaves.
Mhm.
And there's kind of this moment of like, what might have been.
Mm-hmm.
And they go on, and it made me feel things.
Yeah. I thought it was a good movie. I mean, I liked it. I just thought it was bonkers. Like, just all of
The execution wasn't great.
I just thought that the messaging was so heavy-handed. And that's and I'm gonna skip real quick through Needle Drop Forest because there's really not much there music-wise.
No.
There is a nice little moment where the two of them play chopsticks together on the piano, and that's one of the two things that's in the soundtrack. And I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of a fun little bit. It's not quite Robert Loggia and Tom Hanks, but it's all right.
Nothing can beat that.
No. So okay, it's hard to know where to start with this because I got a lot of what else. And it's all kind of interrelated.
Okay.
But I don't 100% know how to get there in a way that's going to make sense. So this may be like a winding road where you're just going to have to like tell me to shut up every now and again. and like
I will do my best.
Wait a minute, hold on. All right, so this movie comes out in 1961 and it's set in 1928. Right before the fall, the stock market crash and the Great Depression. And so like I'm wondering, like, as I'm watching it, why set this in 1928? Because it's not real. The story isn't, it's only tangentially about the stock market thing. Like it's what happened to Bud, and they sold the stock, and they were able to get the money to put her in the institution. So like that was like they made out okay. But it's not about that. Like the movie is about the parental repression on teenagers having sex, and also on teenagers making their own choices about like college or owning a farm or whatever. So I was like, okay, what the hell? Why do that? And I was like, well, this is 61. It's the beginning of the sexual revolution. Like it's just starting. And so I was like, okay, well, so I looked it up. I looked up the author, right? Is William Ing, and he won an Oscar for the screenplay.
Yes.
And he is known for Picnic, which won him the Pulitzer, and Bus Stop, which was a play that later was a Marilyn Monroe movie. He was known as like the playwright of the Midwest because he grew up in like Kansas, and all these stories that he told are kind of set in mid-century middle America.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a little more Googling. Turns out he was born in 1913, which makes him about the age of Deanie and Bud. So this and the story behind this coming about is that he and Kazan were working on a play together, and he told him this story, and they agreed it would make. He told him this story of someone he knew from when he grew up. Like this is a story he heard in Kansas, or people he knew, whatever. And so he's telling this, like, it's a cautionary tale of this is how I'm almost 50. Okay. Not me personally, although I am, but, Ing at this point, I'm almost 50. I'm going to tell you why all of us are so fucked up. And I'm going to tell the parents of 1961 teenagers that being like this to your kids only causes problems.
Yes.
And what happens is that these kids fight out the same way that he probably would have fought out had there not been a depression on. And they get this sexual awakening that happens in the 60s. But this, to me, it felt, and so he said it in 1928 because that's when it really happened.
Mhm.
So that stuff doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just that this is his life, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was looking, I just like, what else did he do? Whatever. So, you know, obviously the title of this movie is from a Wordsworth poem. And they say it a couple of times
Yes.
in the beginning and in the end. One of the other things he wrote is a play called Glory in the Flower, which is another line from that same Wordsworth poem. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the play called Picnic, the Pulitzer-winning play, was based on a woman he'd known as a small child. This guy just copying himself. He's like, he's taken titles from the same Wordsworth poem. He's like, what else happened when I was 14? Well, there's Picnic Lady. And then like he took a bus ride back to Kansas, and he saw like a couple, and then he wrote Bus Stop. I mean, this guy he either is from the most interesting hometown in the history of mankind, or he just big bucket of bullshit. He's like, oh, this happened too. This happened in my hometown.
I mean, I think he knows how to take small town stories and make them interesting.
I think that's really what it is.
Because
yeah. That was option 3, and I think that's it.
I think that's it. People act... I mean, I'm going to have to collect my thoughts here. There might be no way. People think that the most exciting stuff only happens in the big cities or the well-known cities. But the thing is, stories happen everywhere to everyone. You know? That's why... one of the many reasons why people are wanting so many more diverse stories or diverse people playing stories that we've seen before. Because it's like, what? You don't think people of color fall in love? You don't think people of other religions, you know, have problems? Like, why are we ignoring these other people? Like, they happen everywhere and anywhere. I mean, I feel like some of the best plays and films take place in small towns.
And I mean, he definitely carved himself a niche, you know, like I haven't seen Picnic, but I've seen Bus Stop and I've seen this, and they feel like they're written by the same person. Like there's a sensibility that connects these things, and the things he's interested in, I think, shine through, which I think is interesting. The other thing I think is notable about this is him and Kazan. Because, as you said, like one of the founders of method in film worked a lot with Brando. Then he named names for HUAC. And
I saw that.
And was kind of an outcast. This is made 9 years after that. So like he continued to have a career, a good career, a career full of like stuff that
amazingly enough,
well, and really good stuff. I mean, like I don't know how much of this stuff you've seen. So he does a little something called Streetcar Named Desire. Ever heard of it?
No. It's only my dream show.
He did Viva Zapata, On the Waterfront. It's amazing. It's one of the, you know, it's one of those AFI movies. East of Eden.
I've read it, but no, I haven't seen it yet.
But it's, you know, I haven't seen it because I think it's really, I think it's really long, and it's like one of James Dean's 3 movies. So East of Eden, Splendor in the Grass, A Face in the Crowd. Like he just, I feel like I'm missing stuff here that he did. No, On the Waterfront was the one I thought I was missing from 1954. Anyway, it's just those two guys, like the playwright of the Midwest and the former communist namer, coming together in 1961 to write a morality tale about like over-parenting sexually interested teenagers.
I think there's also a profound message in there, again, with the poem that they repeatedly reference. Because I don't have the words in front of me, but basically, like, look back on things fondly or look at them however you will, but move forward with strength.
Yeah. Is
the vibe of the thing.
It's the vibe of the thing. It's just the general vibe.
Because that's how she's able to move forward. Like,
yeah, she realizes.
She looked at her past. She, it had hurt her. She grew from it, and now she is stronger for it.
Yeah,
I don't like that summary, but
so here's the thing. Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, glory in the flower, we will not grieve, rather find strength in what remains behind. So, like, yeah, we've lost these things, but we're not going to be sad about it. We're going to take strength from who we are on the other side of it. Like, we survived this.
That is a very old-fashioned theme.
Yeah. But it's,
it's universal, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Before I tell you what she is, let me just tell you a few things that happen in this movie, because I'm wondering what the moral of this movie is. He has sex. She doesn't. Right? His family goes broke. Hers does not. He ends up on the farm, which he wanted, with kids and a wife, which maybe he didn't. I'm not sure. He seemed to, but also, like, when he sees her, there's that little bit of, the road not taken.
I wanted this with you.
She ends up directionless, kind of, but happy, and a husband waiting for her in Cincinnati, where she will spend a lifetime eating chili with spaghetti in it. So, like, is the moral of the story, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't? Or is it better not to have sex? Like, they both end up kind of happy,
It's...
Or is it doesn't matter, you just have to survive your teenage years?
I think it's that one.
It kind of feels like that one.
Because I know, for me, outside of relationships, I just always felt, or after school, I remember thinking, like, man, I stressed so much about grades and everything.
Yeah.
And was there some value to it? Of course. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
Right. It's a little bit like, this is such a stupid analogy, but here we are in my head. Have I told you about how everything's a spoiler?
Maybe.
Like,
but not on here.
So, like, I don't like it. If most time I don't care. Let's be specific. This is about Indiana basketball games. Because most other sporting events I don't care that much. Like, you can tell me what the score is, it's fine. But an IU game I want to watch, and I don't want to know anything about it before I watch it. And that includes stuff like, at the 8-minute mark, it was 16-12. I don't want to know that, because I know that anything that happens before 16-12 is irrelevant, because at the 8-minute mark, it's going to be 16-12. Okay. Right? So it like, there's no tension in the pre-8-minute mark game for me, because whatever happens, I know that at the 8-minute mark, it's going to be a 4-point game. And I hate knowing that, because it impacts the way I'm watching the game. Like, it takes some of the emotion out of the experience.
Yeah.
So knowing that it's okay when you're 23, like, if you just know, it kind of takes, it's a spoiler for all the bullshit that you go through to get there. Right? Like, it could be 2 years, 6 months in the loony bin because you didn't have sex. Or it could be a miserable semester at Yale where you bang this pizza lady and you end up on a farm. But you're both going to end up standing here facing each other when you're 23 years old or whatever they are, going, well, we kind of survived that. And we're stronger for it in some ways, even though we're still longing for it to have potentially gone the other way.
I think that's one of the hardest things about growing up is accepting that both of those things can exist within you.
Yeah. And also knowing that, like, this is something I tell people all the time when stuff is just shit at work or wherever, like in whatever context, and just like, I just got to get through this, whatever it is. And I'm like, you know what? At some point, it's going to be Christmas, or like, no matter what I do, like, it's going to be the 4th of July coming up. Like, eventually, I'm going to get to there, and that's going to be where I am, and I'll have made it through this part because, like, that's going to happen. Like, and by then we'll have gotten past the silly shit. At least this particular brand of silly shit.
Well, it's before the 4th of July.
The 2nd of July.
How rude.
Yeah.
A certain birthday that's way more exciting.
Liam's?
Okay, that's.
I mean, I do kind of have to take my child's birthday. But yes, I know your birthday. I know this is month of Leslie.
It is. And I observe the month so that I don't feel pressure to be happy on my birthday, and that is why I celebrate the whole month.
You deserve the whole month. Take it. Love it.
Thank you.
Leave the 22nd alone, and that belongs to a soon-to-be teenager.
That belongs to Liam.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So yeah, I just found there to be a whole lot of weird layers of this movie. Just that whole why.
It's like they couldn't settle on one theme.
I think they. I mean,
they had a main.
Yeah, they had a main theme,
but it was an umbrella with many spins.
Yeah, I don't know. It was. I found it not uninteresting. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm thumbs up on this movie, but I watched like the first hour. I was like, this is the fucking craziest movie I've ever seen. Like, all these people are nuts. Like, the way that he's acting on the basketball court because he could not nut is so funny. Like, and when they're like, oh, Jenny was away in college, and oh, she was up to the devil's business and whatever else. And then they cut to her, and all you see is a leg coming out from a sheet and her just playing the shit out of the ukulele. I'm like, that's what happens when you go away to school? You come back with like ukulele herpes? I mean, it was a lot going on in this movie.
I did school wrong. I didn't come back playing the ukulele and sexy setting.
Yeah, I think you missed out. Yeah.
Oh well.
So, what was this the EST of for you?
Sloppiest intimacy I have seen.
Pretty sloppy.
Yet.
Yeah. I had trouble with an EST for this one, but the thing I think of when I think of EST, like just the image that comes to my mind, is this is probably the movie with the most cum waterfalls I've ever seen.
I mean, from the straight out the gate, it's these people want to come.
And they can't.
But when they do, it's gonna be a fucking waterfall.
You know what it is? It's that scene in The Nutty Professor. Have you seen The Nutty Professor? Oh my God. The movie's fine. But the scene, there's two scenes at the table, at the dinner table, where Eddie Murphy's playing all of the characters at the table except for the kid and his love interest. And he's playing his grandma, and he's real big. Oh, yeah, well, Miss Purdy. He's a big fat guy. But his grandma is over there at the end of the table. She's so nasty. She's so funny. And she's like, when you get a man up there on top of you, and 35 years of warning and might make your head blow off. That's what this was.
Oh my God.
Woo, might make your head blow off. Ain't nothing wrong with a little bingo. Little cunniling has never hurt anybody. It's great. The scene is very funny. And there's a whole lot of farting, which is so great.
Oh yeah, this is not the movie for me.
Oh, did somebody say my name?
But no, if there's a ton of fart jokes, then I'm out.
But they're really good ones. The grandma's at the end of the table, and the dad farts, and she goes, "Somebody say my name." And he goes, "Yeah, I said your name. If it's, I hope your ass turned into a frog." It's very funny.
Listen, when you have IBS and Crohn's disease, fart jokes are sometimes triggering to
Understood.
the most embarrassing moments, which could have been of your life, but fortunately you can slink away or play it off like, oh, that's terrible. Who did that?
Yeah, I said your name. If it's,
My greatest acting role is Lady Who Didn't Fart.
and the Oscar goes to. I'm so happy that you said that before I took a drink, because I would have spit that all over everything.
Oh my God, I couldn't have timed it better. I mean, I could have, but I would hate for you to spit out bourbon on my account.
I wouldn't have wanted to clean up the bourbon spittle, but it was very close.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like, very close.
Will we? Nope.
Oh, almost. One last thing that I noticed in this, the final shot of the movie is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the final shot, is she gets in the car with her friends after seeing Bud, and they ask her how she's doing, and she's sitting in the seat, and she's just it's a one shot on her with the road behind her, and she doesn't respond to them. She's just quietly looking at the camera.
Yep.
It's The Graduate. Have you seen The Graduate?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. It's The Graduate, except for that's a 2-shot and it's longer. Like, yeah. So I wonder if they took, if that shot in The Graduate was inspired in some way by this.
That would be
because
awesome.
It's very similar. You know, it's the same kind of framing. It's characters roughly the same age. In a car or a bus on their way to sort of the next adventure. And you get to read on their face the excitement and the just all the emotions that are happening in them at this point in their journey. And the genius of The Graduate is they just let it sit there. And you just watch their two faces go through about 70 emotions. And nothing else, just their faces. The Graduate's brilliant. But that's at the opposite end of the decade after the sexual revolution takes place.
Uh-huh.
You know, in between these 2 points of overt sexual repression and you're the most attractive of all of my parents' friends. You know, like it's an interesting decade.
No doubt.
Is there anything else?
Studying it.
What's that?
I love studying it.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't around in the 60s. I'm okay with that. Seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
Anything else that we didn't get to in this?
Oh, gosh. No, I mean, again, it's not that I didn't like the movie. I liked it, and I liked the conversations it's bringing out. I just think, I mean, and this is just a problem we have with a lot of older movies now, is because we want more, even though the message we're getting from that was progressive or was a big deal at the time. You know,
Yeah.
I think what I would have liked is smoother transitions between scenes, better subplots, because we get a lot of, I don't know, I feel like we got a lot of loose ends. I mean,
Yeah.
the poor sister's just kind of
She died.
left out. I mean, yeah, she died, but what happened in between that horrible night and everything else? Like, I don't get what's the point of using her as some horrible, you know,
She's a
warning.
cautionary tale. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's a
It
weird
didn't work
movie
for me.
because having sex makes you nuts and not having sex makes you nuts. So what the fuck are you
Also,
gonna
I
do?
forgot to mention this, but like the parents and the kids had some weird ass intimacy, and I didn't like it. I was like, ooh, no,
Yeah.
let me step in. Let me go into my time machine and fix
Right.
this.
Yeah. It's too bad.
Oh, that'd be a
But
cool
not
time
not
machine.
uninteresting. The sexual intimacy time machine.
Yes, that's the kind of time lady I am.
Sexual intimacy time machine.
I just barge open my
Yeah.
man. What would it be if it's not a phone booth? Although I kind of want a phone booth, or it's a police box. Whoops,
Yeah. Police
just made a
box.
lot of people mad.
That's okay. There's a lot of people who didn't know what you're talking about. So
That's true.
more people should watch Doctor Who and they don't. So here we are.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I think once again we have proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling, even Splendor in the Grass. Thanks, Natalie Wood. Next week, Cheesemeisters, talk about a fucking tonal shift. In conjunction with season 2, episode 17, Chucky's back. Remember Chucky? We decided to watch a movie with a child star in it. And we're going to watch Home Alone.
Hell yeah.
So, which is, spoilers, a movie that I liked quite a bit when I saw it in the theater when I was 14, and that I think is really dumb now. So,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, I'm not a Home Alone fan anymore. We'll get into this in greater detail, but Kevin's an asshole and they left him at home on purpose. And they were right to do so.
Yes.
So, spoilers, that's my position on Home Alone. So,
That's fine.
yeah, so we're going to get into that next week, which will start a couple of Christmas movies in a row for us as we get into the December season on 90210. Yep. So, we got some stuff coming up.
Yeah, we do.
I can't believe how far away it is before we get to Rocky 4. It's just there's so much between now and then,
I'm
and
so sorry.
I really want to watch Rocky 4. But we'll get there. It'll just be
I don't, but I'm gonna do it, and it's gonna be fine.
we're gonna have a lot of fun talking about Rocky 4 because
I know we are.
it is wonderfully ridiculous. It's special on its face.
I'm gonna have to listen to the musical.
There's a Rocky 4 musical?
Well, there's a Rocky musical.
Is there? Why?
Oh yeah,
You don't
exactly.
You don't mean Rocky
Why?
Horror, because that's different.
No,
Okay.
I mean Rocky, and you missed the Tony performance of something.
Oh man.
Oh,
Okay.
man. You need to know this.
See, there's a thing that happens in Rocky 3 it's my favorite thing of all the Rocky movies, and it is and I just want this to be like the end of Act 1 in that play. It is Rocky and Apollo racing each other on the beach, wearing very tight tank tops and short shorts and knee-high socks. And it's the culmination of a montage. And Rocky finally catches and beats Apollo. And then they frolic in the ocean. And it couldn't... It's
Amazing.
so great. if that's not the end of Act 1 of that Rocky musical, then what are we even doing here? I mean, is this America? I don't think it is. If that's not,
according to Childish Gambino, it is.
oh yeah, it's I don't know. We're missing the point. Like Michael Bay missed the point in that movie Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. Oh man.
All right. So until next week, Cheesemeisters. Cheers.
Cheers.